Something that's been fairly common for me over at least the last 10 years is people asking for advice. They want to get into the particular industry that I'm in. They want to know how to get jobs with studios, how to network. Generally, they want advice on how to get a creative career. The problem with that is it doesn't compare to many other career paths. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, nursing staff, teaching staff, many of those types of career paths, there are fairly set processes for you to achieve. There will be recognised universities that run the courses that you need to get a qualification in. In a lot of cases, there will be a recognised training hospital, or especially with teaching, there is standard processes in this country. Quite often there'll be teachers who will go out into country regions first, and that's where they'll start their careers, and then they'll move on through. Again, with engineering, there are different types of engineering. You can go into mining, you could go into aviation, etc. And so they're not clearly signposted for every single step of your career, but in a lot of cases there are fairly obvious milestones that you are probably going to want to work towards to get your career from A to B to C to D. The creative industries honestly don't have that. In almost all cases, there might be a course that you can do that will teach you 3D animation. There might be a school that you can go to that will teach you composing or photography. But the reality is, I know just as many people who never went a day to university as people I know who have done a degree and then a master's degree and then postgraduate and things like that. And in fact, often the various different degrees are not much of a help at all. I know people who are self-taught in using 3D packages to do artwork and 3D modeling and animation and stuff, and some of those have ended up in some of the best jobs in the industry, working for some of the biggest studios in the industry, and they're completely self-taught. I went to university as an instrumental musician. The things that I've used in my career of sound design, location recording, even composing and orchestration, I've not had formal education in any of those things. What I've had is a career path that I could not map out and explain to another person if I had to, because it has been this bizarre, circuitous route that has had shifts and changes and unpredictable course changes and opportunities that I could never have prepared for, because I could never have predicted them. And I think the more I talk to people in the creative industries, the more this seems to be the case. There are certainly examples where people have had mentors and they've basically had opportunities open up into internships, perhaps because of the network that mentor has had. But I'm not going to suggest that a good mentor is necessarily a silver bullet to the problem either. I really think that creative careers are more about stubbornness, tenacity, stamina, patience, than they are about a planned path that will take you from A to B to C to D. And the other thing is, I think, whereas, and I don't know these very well, but I can imagine you would maybe start off as a junior lawyer and then basically go on to specialize in a particular area, and that may open up into other areas where you could become into more senior positions and maybe even to becoming a judge. You don't often decide in a creative position, I'm going to be here in 10 years' time, because you're probably going to end up in a completely different path. And so I've had to really adapt on the fly. Quite often it's like, oh, okay, it now looks like I'm going to be working very strongly in this direction. It looks like I'll need to train myself up to be strong in that direction, and I'll need to make a decision to whether I want to move in that direction. And then once I've done that, a couple of years down the track, another door may open or another opportunity may arise. And this is why it's a curving path. And so this is something that I think, whether you are brand new to wanting to work in the creative industries, or even somebody who's been in the creative industries for quite some time, I think you need to be aware of that, and I think you need to be hungry for knowledge of fields that basically are related to what you do. Because the more you understand related fields and the more you can branch out and I guess nibble around the edges of other things, that might open up these opportunities for you to shift and change direction. So I think ambition is important, but you need to be perhaps a little bit more broader with your ambition, and you need to take opportunities when they arise, not necessarily because you think that's going to be where you're going to end up in 5 years' time, but it may influence where you'll be. And so being, I guess, agile or flexible combined with that ambition, I think is likely to give you a better chance for longevity in a creative career. I've seen a lot of people burn out and shift away from the creative industries, and I think sometimes because they had too rigid an expectation in the first place, and I think in some other cases because perhaps they didn't take on some of the opportunities that were presented to them. And I think this is one of the things I've always been very, very curious, and I've always tried really, really hard to see what opportunities might be around that could benefit me, and I've not taken all of them, but I've thought very, very carefully about any opportunity that is presented to me and been open to ideas and allow myself to have that flexibility to maybe see, well, what is down that pathway a little bit? Is it worth investigating at least a little bit? Spend 6 months investigating it and see where that takes me. Anyway, so that's a quick one, but I really think that flexibility combined with the ambition is a really, really good way to maximize your opportunities. Thanks for listening.